And now on Sydney Weekend, cheers with Ben Malouf. Thanks to firstvintage.com.au.
And he's here in the studio with me. G'day, Benny.
G'day, Dan. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. An email here from Elaine during the week. Ben, is a $25 bottle of wine 10 times better than a $2.50 bottle of wine?
Look, Dan, that's a really interesting question, and you get asked these sorts of things quite regularly. You don't have to spend an exorbitant amount to get a great bottle of Australian wine these days. Is a $2.50 bottle of wine 10 times better or worse than a $25 bottle of wine? Look, that's a very relative thing to say. What I can say, though, is that regularly some of the best wines in the country, as awarded by the Royal Agricultural Societies, retail for around that $20 price point. And these wines have been tasted blind, which means that when the judges try them, they don't know what the wine is, they don't know what the bottle is. So if you're spending $20, $25 on a bottle of Australian wine, you're bound to get something pretty damn good.
There you go. It's interesting, isn't it? Because they're everywhere. The clean skins and the cheap $2.50 wines are everywhere.
Look, absolutely. I always say it's playing Russian roulette. You know, you take a $2.50 bottle of wine, you might get something that's fabulous, that's just an off-run from the end of the barrel that they couldn't sell as part of their main vintage, but you really are playing Russian roulette. I mean, some of those cheaper wines are those ones that you get those really nasty hangovers with, you know, the chemicals that are in there, and I think we've all had a few of those from time to time. Doesn't mean that all of the cheaper wines are like that, but you really are rolling the dice under those circumstances.
If I walked in with a $2.50 bottle of wine, my wife would say, walk straight back out again, pal.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Okay, so we talked last week about different regions. I think it was the Margaret River we spoke about. Are different regions, do they come into season at different times? So should we be thinking, well, McLaren Vale is particularly good this year, and you know, like 2010 was a good year for Margaret River, or for the Hunter Valley, for instance? Are different regions that much different?
Look, different regions become famous for different grape varieties. So when you think about, say, you know, Coonawarra, you think Cab Savs. When you think about the Hunter, you think Shirazes or Semillons. And the climate and the soils and all of those sorts of things do play a really important part in the quality of the wine that is actually made. Now, these guys, these winemakers, these regions, they've got things pretty well down pat these days. Yes, you'll have vintages that are better than others because of weather and because of conditions and because of things that are out of the winemaker's control. But these guys know what they're doing, and they know when to pick them, when to crush them, when to make them. You know, this is something, this is a fine art these days.
And I suppose then in that case, weather and a particularly dry season, all of those things come into play year after year. So you can say, well, 2010, the bushfires, or 1997, we had drought. And so that, you'd say, well, steer clear of the 97. Am I right? Different years come into play?
Absolutely. Different years come into play all the time. 1998 was considered universally at the time to be one of the best years for Australian wine in 10, 20, 30 years even.
Okay.
Now, it's affected by a lot of things. Ironically, if you have a really hot summer or a really hot period of time where a lot of the grapes die and they wither and you don't produce a lot of fruit, you can actually produce really, really good quality stuff, because what survives is the creme de la creme. It's the stuff that's the toughest. It's the stuff that's the most durable. And all of a sudden you have these fantastic bottles of wine. So, you know, it's the old argument of quantity versus quality. Sometimes you can get some great wines from very little juice.
Now to the last line of Elaine's email. Dan, what's a $20 stocking stuffer for Christmas?
Coming into Christmas. Look, we've talked about bubbles. We've talked about white wine. Let's go for a really nice Shiraz. And my favourite Shiraz at the moment is a bottle of wine called Patriti Oldgate Shiraz. It's from down at the McLaren Vale. It's beautiful, it's rich, it's plummy, it's earthy, but it's still got those silky, smooth sort of finish to it. So you can have more than one or two glasses, and you're going to blow anybody away with it as a Christmas present or a stocking stuffer.
And is it the kind of stuff you put on the top shelf and don't open for 10 years, or do you drink it now?
Look, Dan, it will age quite well because it is a big, heavy McLaren Vale Shiraz, so it will age, but I had a bottle of it during the week, and I can assure you it is drinking particularly well right now.
And give us the name of it again.
It's called Patriti Oldgate Shiraz, and the current vintage is a 2010 vintage. It's absolutely magnificent.
There you go. Well done. Now, what we want to do is send people to Facebook, and if they go to First Vintage on Facebook and press like, you'll have a list of all of the people who like your page, and then in the next couple of weeks we're going to give away some prizes.
We've got some fantastic wines, Dan, and I'd really like to share them with some of the listeners. So yeah, go to Facebook, like us on Facebook, or check us out at firstvintage.com.au.
Ben Malouf. Cheers with Ben Malouf. Thanks, Ben. See you again next week.
Thanks, Dan. See you next week.
Firstvintage.com.au